Having completed the preparations of the compute nodes in our virtual cluster to receive commands from the Slurm Resource Manager, we will now run a test job. The process here is to add a test user to the SMS host, which will automatically add that to /etc/password, and then we can either allow the synchronization to take place using update node compute-f command, or we can make use of xcat's xdcp merge functionality, which will add new entries into credential files on the compute nodes. We'll go with xcat's xdcp for this so that we can illustrate the functionality. First thing we'll do is check on the compute nodes, the content, you can see there is no entry for that, and we'll do the same here. There are no entries in either etc password file for a user called test. On our Vagrant SMS host, we will do the same. There is no user test in the SMS host. So to confirm, the left-hand column are two windows of the SMS host. The right-hand columns are compute 00 and compute 01. When we run user add test, we should expect to see a test user appear here, but nothing immediately will appear on the compute node etc password files. If either of these two VMs were now rebooted, these compute nodes would resynchronize the etc password file from the SMS host, and they would then see the updated entry. But we don't want to necessarily reboot our VM every time we add a user, because that would cause our virtual cluster or our production cluster to be rebooting every time we have to add or change a user. Instead, we'll create a synchronization file for pushing the user credentials to the compute nodes. We'll start by watching the contents of sync users. It does not exist. We'll begin the process of creating this file. We want to include etc password, we want to include etc group, and we want to include etc shadow. With our sync users file ready, we'll initiate the process using xdcp. Pay attention to the right-hand column. Neither compute node has a user called test. When we initiate this command here, it will synchronize that file, which will merge the password file from the host to the password file on the compute nodes. Watch the right-hand column for the results. The etc password files on the compute nodes have been updated with the new user. This was done live without needing to reboot the VMs. Although we did this initially to prepare ourselves to run an interactive test job, this does illustrate the process that you can implement on your virtual cluster to create new users for your virtual cluster without causing any downtime to reboot to synchronize the etc password file.